Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Ward 69 Town Hall in Westdene. My name is Candice Bailey, and I am a resident in Ward 69. I live in 5th Avenue. And yeah, we're really glad to have everybody here and have this discussion take place today. Just a few rules on how things are going to go today, a bit of a rundown through the program. We will start with a bit of a welcome and introduction and some ground rules that we'll set. We'll then give each of the 5 candidates that are on the call, on the webinar, a chance to make some presentations. And we've got 5 candidates today in. We've got the ANC, we've got the ACDP, we've got Action SA, we've got Patriotic Alliance, we've got Good, and we've got ACDP. We had extended an invitation to the DA, but they were unable to join us, but we'll chat about that a bit later. Once we, those 5 presentations should then give us about a half an hour, take us into a half an hour of our webinar. Once the candidates have finished their presentations, we'll then move into a Q&A session where we give the residents a chance to ask the grueling questions, the difficult questions to the candidates, the questions that they want answers to. And that should take us another 45 or so minutes, 30 to 45 minutes. We have questions and answers in different sections, but we can chat about that once we get there. And then we'll give you the candidates a last chance just to wrap up their thoughts, to give us some parting shots and some points that they may not have mentioned during their presentations or during the Q&A session. Yeah. Thank you very much, and we can go on to the next bit. So how did this webinar come about? Well, I think a couple of residents in the area were undecided about their vote and didn't know what to do when they go to the polls tomorrow. And we thought, let's put our questions to the candidates. First of all, let's find out who the candidates are and put our grueling questions to them and see what they have to offer and, you know, what their plans are for our neighborhood. We then extended the invitation to different parties, to the different parties that were in the local government election, participating in the election. And we also tried to prioritize the parties that were only campaigning in this area. So they weren't campaigning in any other areas, in multiple areas. And this is the response that we got. As we mentioned, the DA, Genevieve Sherman, was unable to join us. She has a different engagement. And our candidate for the ACDP, her name is Laverne Lodge. She is also unable to join us. She has a different engagement this afternoon, but she has asked Ron Harris to stand in for her and to provide us with a bit of an overview of the ACDP's policies and their look and feel and what they are standing for. So yeah, in terms of the DA, we'll ask Diane Hawker to share just a little bit about the manifesto. They have shared their manifesto with us, and she can just run through that and give us a little bit of a rundown as to what their thinking is with the neighborhood specifically. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome you, and let's enjoy our time. Oh, sorry, I was about to tell you ground rules. So in terms of ground rules, we are keeping the session in the spirit of Ubuntu. This is not an event or that has been affiliated with any specific community grouping. It's really literally just some curious residents and concerned residents that have taken it up upon themselves to create this event. So we're going to ask you to keep your questions, keep yourself tidy, keep it courteous when it comes to the Q&A session. The attendees will be able to get talking rights during the Q&A session. If you don't want to talk and don't want to ask your question live, you can type your question into the Q&A of the webinar. You can find the Q&A on the control panel at the bottom of your screen. You can type it in and we'll then send it to the moderator. Otherwise, you can raise your hand during the question and answer session, and we will then we'll allocate you when it's your time. Are there any questions, or can we get moving? I think we can get going. Perfect. So we're going to start off, and we've done this in alphabetical order just to make it easy and to make it fair. So we'll start off with the ACDP, and Ron Harris is going to take to the floor. Ron, over to you. Ron, are you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can, sir.
My sincerest apologies for that. Thank you so much for the invitation. And once again, I'd like to just apologize on behalf of my colleague Laverne, but she's asked me to stand in. Let me just start by telling you a bit about the ACDP. Started in 1994 by the Reverend Kenneth Meshwe. And I think the focus of the ACDP was really on bringing Christian values into the political space and into the political arena. Unfortunately, over time, we've morphed into being the voice for all of the morally contentious issues. When there's discussions about the LGBTQI plus community, then when it comes to regulation, then the ACDP seems to be the go-to person or go-to party. But when it comes to economic policy and housing policy and community safety policy, transport policy, the ACDP is sort of relegated into the back rooms. And we're not that way, you know. I think the ACDP is not a church. Let's start that. The African Christian Democratic Party, even though started by Reverend Meshwe, is not a church. It is a fully fledged political party that would like to offer to the electorate of South Africa good governance, values-based governance, and the kind of service delivery and servant leadership that the country so dearly needs. We look at what has happened in the past 27 years, and tomorrow is really just an exam day, so to speak, for the 500 plus political parties that are offering themselves to the electorate. And tomorrow, the people that will be going to make their crosses, the electorate, those who are registered voters, have a very, very important task at hand. And that is really a twofold one, in that it has to, it's a kind of an exam or an assessment of what has been given to us in the last 5 years, the last term of the current administration. If we are happy with it, then I think we are morally obliged to continue voting for those that have been in that position. But if we're not happy with it, and here we can list a catalog of issues that we can't be happy with, then you are also morally obliged to have a look at the vast array of parties that will be offering themselves to you. I would imagine there's 20 or plus parties in Ward 69. Now those 20 plus parties, you have to choose one of the parties who you think will best articulate your cares and concerns going forward for the next 5 years. Now, the ACDP would like to say to you that we have a track record within the Ward 69. Incidentally, if I may just add, I'm standing as the candidate-elect for Ward 82. So when I talk on behalf of Laverne, I think we'll interchange, so to speak, for the two wards. We're very closely linked to one another. In fact, Westbury Extension 3 is part of Ward 69, but it's really just part of the greater Westbury Nuclear Coronationville area. So when we talk about what have we done so far, and I think a lot of people will say, well, what has the ACDP done for us so far? Unfortunately, our electoral system is such that the winning party, and in this case, the Democratic Alliance, won in 2016. Every other party had to stand aside besides the Democratic Alliance, the African National Congress, and all of the other parties that made up the current administration. Every other party had to stand aside and watch as the ruling administration tried to make as best as possible with the revenue that was given to them. So here are the challenges that we are facing now. I think for one, if we look at the inequality and poverty levels, there's poverty in such a tremendous amount in the Westbury area. Yet on the Ward 69 other areas, there seems to be a huge amount of working poor people. And these people are being taxed to death with high rates and taxes. The services, Sorry about that. The services for the the amounts of money being charged for services, electricity and so forth. It's excessive, and is it fair for those working poor to carry those that cannot pay or that do not want to pay? So there's also issues of the social challenges, the drug dealing and all of those things. There's the issues of the stereotyping of our communities within these Ward 69, Ward 82. There's also the issues of the social challenges. You know, there's people who are having all kinds of problems relating to gender-based violence, marriages, children who are delinquent, crime and so forth. But then most importantly for us, I would imagine, is the structure of the city council that does not allow for service delivery to come swiftly to people. If you complain to one department, there's a whole maze of red tape that consumers or clients or residents have to go through to be able to achieve or get some relief to their complaints. So I would imagine when we go to as the ACDP, if we are sent into council, and we trust that the community will have the confidence to be able to have a look at our service delivery track record and send us into council so that we may be able to go in and challenge the status quo of the city council, where it's made up of a whole host of entities and departments. You also have issues like the unions that are around there. And then you have current legislature that makes it impossible for service delivery to flow freely to consumers. So I would like to say this in closing, that the ACDP stands for good, clean governance. We stand for fairness, we stand for equality, and we stand for serving our communities as best possible. And may I just add the last cherry on top. As we come into the local government elections as the ACDP, we have right on our doorstep our Mayor-elect, Bishop Dalton Adams, who's a member of the provincial legislature. And we will be able to leverage all the resources, not only of the City Council, but the resources within provincial legislature as well, to be able to improve the material conditions of the people living not only in Ward 69, but in Ward 82 as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You managed to keep within the time limit, so thank you so much. A little bit over, but that's fine. Next up, we are going to go to Paul Nefdt. And Paul, are you there? You've got 5 minutes for us.
Okay. Afternoon, everybody. Thanks for the invitation. So thank you that the meeting was held on or initiated from the Westdene residents. I would have loved to have had a town hall meeting physically and be there to chat with the residents and that, but we are here today. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So for those that don't know anything about Action SA, the most familiar or popular person within the organization is the current leader, Mr. Mashaba, who most of us know that was a TA mayor previously for Johannesburg. And that was the outcome of the 2016 local government elections. But what a lot of people don't know and what we assume is that, and you see it in a lot of comments and that, and that is that some people assume Mr. Mashaba sought out a political career position or whatever. That was not the case. Our current provincial head, Mr. John Modi, always shares that he was one of the guys that actually went looking for a suitable candidate that they would like to present to Johannesburg, and they arrived with Mr. Mashaba. So thinking, and then there's a lot of people that think Mr. Mashaba was looking for a political position. No, it wasn't. He was asked to join, and he did. He became the mayor, and I had his 3-year stint, did a lot of things. There's a whole list of things, very long list of things. And then obviously we all know popularly he resigned 2019, citing his reasons. And from there, there was obviously online interaction with himself and South Africans on a platform called the People's Dialogue. And the most common question was if Mr. Mashaba and those that were with him was going to start their own party. Well, they took the leap, started their party, and here we are today. Why I am choosing Action SA, I previously was voted for other parties, but what struck me and really impressed me was that he took decisive action, and that is what's needed to fix things now. You know, nobody's perfect. Everybody will not please everybody, but at the end of the day, the greater good is what's important. And from a Johannesburg perspective, there's a lot we need to fix. There's a lot of decay and problems that started. And that's why I believe in Mr. Mashawa. A lot of people do as well. If you just look at the media over the last week or so, it's coming through that Action SA is on everybody's lips in that. I'm not going to say in the lead or anything or lead people on, but that's what everybody's talking. And I believe it's because Mr. Mashawa wants to fix things, and that's how he does things. I think a popular memory when he was mayor was that he used to have cleanups on Saturdays, and he was part of those cleanups, and which is something that I can identify with, because I'm a kind of person that would rather be there and help and do something myself. So that to me says it's going to be somebody that if there's a problem, they would get their backs behind the wheel and get involved. Number one for Action SA is obviously to remove the problem that's caused the decay of our city and obviously the greater South Africa. But for now, it's just about our local elections and what we can and can't do as a city. We shouldn't delve into national policies and those things. That will move on to after LG. So for now, we focus, and our manifesto was based on local service delivery and, you know, doing what we need to do to get our city fixed, you see. And if you see just the points on our manifesto, we're focusing on the residents, because this is the crux of the city. It's an organization or a council is set up to serve the residents within the city, you know. And just to give a list of things, and if you see, it's customer or client centric in business terms, but it's resident centric, you know. Action SA would like to deliver customer centric government that delivers good service to the residents, ethical and professional public service. A lot of us have had those instances where we are just not happy with the attitude of people we interact with at the city, and effective and efficient administration. A lot of money is wasted on things that shouldn't be even focused on. You know, we can use that money somewhere else. A caring and inclusive government or governance. A lot of our focus is on the poorer communities. You know, there's things there that they can't do the same as our more affluent residents and that, and then that's our focus point for one of the things. A business-friendly environment. It's not the city's duty, or it's not within the city's mandate to create jobs in it. So we need to create an environment that can deliver good business prospects for businesses, because if you've got a transport business and the roads are breaking, your transport business is going to suffer. So we'd like to deliver a business-friendly environment. And then safety and security. A lot of our communities struggle under the crime in that. I mean, I'm part of the Westdene chats in that, and almost every week there's recordings of crime and things like that. So from Action SA's point of view, this is the things that we want to challenge, you know, and try and solve. Westdene is one of our areas within our ward, but most of our problems stretches, or it's something that's happening in all areas. We all have water problems. We all have electrical faults problems that are not being solved. We all have now and then when Pick It Up doesn't come out, illegal buildings. Westdene is very popular for these communes that pop up, and it creates problems in it. So that is basically what I want to say that Action SA wants to do. We want to solve the basic service delivery issues, and then broaden obviously the offer we have to our wards, residents and everything, with other social programs and integrating programs in that. But because it's a local government elections, you know, I don't want to sit here and make promises on things that should be done on a national level. It's just basic service delivery. Let's get it done and get everybody happy with what the city should be doing.
Thanks so much, Paul.
Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We'll keep you on, and we'll move on to the next participant. We have Aluwani Chokoe from the ANC. Aluwani, are you there?
Yes, I am here. Can we try to see my video? Should I keep my video on for the purposes of?
Keep your video on, it'll be good.
Okay,
Thanks.
just in case there's load shedding.
You can.
Good afternoon. My name is Aluwani Chokoe. I'm a child of the liberation movement. I'm a 25-year-old Bachelor of Commerce graduate from the University of Johannesburg and a former student leader thereof at the University of Johannesburg. So I have availed myself to run as a ward councillor candidate, understanding that we are faced with a rather disconcerting task of leading the social emancipation program to its logical conclusion. And we are saying the ANC is fielding its youth to a sphere of government that is the closest to the people and also an epicenter of service delivery, with an understanding that it is fundamentally the energy and the militancy of young people that will bring about fundamental change in the end. We are assured that indeed also the revolution is an activity of the young. I think it is evident that we host the highest number of inequality as a country, and this is measured through the Gini coefficient. This is also resultant of the history that we have, colonialism, neocolonialism, or colonialism of a special type, and it has been hard trying to rebuild this country. But a party that I stand for, that has called for total renewal now, which is evident with the fielding of young people and with other mechanisms of dealing with corruption, such as the step aside, the Zondo Commission and all of that. They have come to the fore to say we are rebuilding South Africa, rebuilding in the sense that the good work that has been done, the victories that have been registered over the period of 27 years, the building of RDP houses, social welfare grants for children, the elderly, the disabled, the funding in high institutions of higher learning. I myself was taken to school by the government funding scheme, and now we are saying fundamentally we know that people have been waiting for change, and because sometimes it is better to become the change that you seek in your own party. We are tired as well as young people within the ANC of the elderly who are out of ideas, and we really want to take it upon ourselves to build this country. So in our ward, we have the lowest LSM and the highest. Lowest LSM will be represented by an informal settlement such as the Slovo Park. In fact, I remember that there was a housing development that was starting in 2015, 2016. However, when the Democratic Alliance got into power and the city of Johannesburg, the project was stopped. When we tried to find reasoning for that, we are not given sufficient reasoning. And again, I know and very cognizant that we also have challenges of unemployment. And now, as the former gentleman, the latter speaker has mentioned that with the issue of unemployment, the city does not have capacity to take in everyone. So the best that we can do with the businesses that operate in our ward, we can come into an agreement with them to say, if you are looking for personnel, it should be around the ward. We must be able to produce a database of people to say, okay, with your corporate social responsibility, we want you to train this number of people so that they can be absorbed. We also have a tertiary institution. We want the graduates that are from the University of Johannesburg to find jobs in the immediate within our community. And then the skills development training, I think we need to go to the extent of even approaching the MTN Foundation. I know that they are running an ICT skills program. I would know this because I also serve as the spokesperson of the National Youth ICT Council, where we try to make South Africa a global source of tech talent. So we are able to say MTN Foundation, we have 10,000 young people in this ward who would like to be skilled because we are moving into the digital era. So we know that if they are skilled, the MTN Foundation also has the capacity to say, no, we can redirect so many trainees from this program to these communities or to these companies so that they have employment. And we also have a crime problem. a crime problem and gender-based violence problem and a drug problem. So with gender-based violence, Interpol has named South Africa the world's rape capital, with women in the country more likely to be raped than educated. And we are also cognizant that the abuse of drugs and the irresponsible intake of alcohol sometimes is a byproduct of gender-based violence. These are also factors that are also coerced by the issue of unemployment. In fact, I remember that there was a Josie at Work, a PWP program that was started, I think, in 2011 by former Mayor Pakstow, but it was stopped abruptly in 2016 by the DA government when they got into the city. So such programs were contributing to the employability of the people of Ward 69. And again, with the drug problem, I think because it poses a threat, particularly to the future of young people, we are building a country, and it can't be that we leave other young people behind. I think we have a responsibility to advocate for a rehab center, even if it is around this zone, so that they're able to absorb a higher number of people in the zone. And then also in terms of skills development, we have the institutions here, we have CJCs, we have, in fact, particularly here, we have the University of Johannesburg. And as a former student leader, I would know best how to register potential students who are sitting at home thinking, firstly, they don't qualify, or they have no funding to access institutions of higher learning. So the university has different offerings. You can even have enroll for a higher certificate, a diploma, and a degree. And I would be able to obviously to know where funding mechanisms are sought at as a former student leader as well. So even in our ward, I think what is most painful, okay, I'm wrapping up, apologies. What is most painful is the fact that we are cognizant of the crime issue and we still have street lights not working. It poses us a threat actually to everyone around the community, especially the student area where they are robbed, and also the surrounding communities of Westdene, Melville, where there's a lot of hijackings and robberies. So I think it is important that we become the fundamental change that we seek in our community. We have a country to build, and who best than us who are uncomfortable with an environment with no change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aluwani, for that presentation. We are about to move on to the presentation by the DA. We also have Diane give us the manifesto of the DA. Before we go into that, I just want to let everybody know that if you have questions, please feel free to drop them into the Q&A, and we'll pick them up and send them to the different panelists. I see there has one question has popped in, so please feel free to give them as you go along, and as you hear the presentations, you may have something that you want to ask, so please do that. If you've just joined us, we at the Ward 69 Westdene Town Hall, a virtual town hall, just where we're chatting to the different candidates about their views on our neighborhood and what needs to be done, and helping us to decide who we can vote for. Diane, are you there? I'm just going to stop sharing and put up.
Hi, yes.
Sure.
Hi there, yes, I am. Are you able to share the document that we were sent? Okay, just to clarify to the participants, I am not a DA member, nor am I a representative of the Democratic Alliance. We did invite Genevieve Sherman to the town hall, but she indicated that she wouldn't be able to attend. We also invited Andrew Murray from the party. I think he's one of the PR candidates. And he said he couldn't attend because they were busy with the special votes, but he asked if I could just share this with the those participating. I believe everyone knows that Genevieve Sherman is our current councillor, and might have had some opportunity to interact with her. And in the document that the DA has shared, you know, they speak about the coalition that was formed in the previous administration that led to the DA running the municipality for some time. They speak about smaller parties not being able to really run the government. They're saying smaller parties have been nothing but a disappointment, changing sides and sometimes being bribed by the ANC to support their plans. And that's why they are calling for and campaigning for a Democratic Alliance majority. And they are basically trying to encourage residents to avoid there being any other coalition type of government in which smaller parties would be involved, and rather aim to vote for a main sort of one party clear majority winner. Candice, if you can go on to the second page, please. All right. So the other thing that was shared with us is kind of a track record from the current councillor and some of the issues here. I hope that the participants can see. And I'm just going to read from this, as it's, I don't want to paraphrase, but rather put it in their words. Genevieve Sherman's record as councillor, fighting a continual battle to end the ongoing power and water outages caused by declining city infrastructure, initiated, drove, promoted, and oversaw the construction of the treatment center, drug rehab center in Westbury, construction of the Transformation Development Center on the corner of Portland and Fuel Road, construction of the Helen Joseph Mortuary and Pathology Laboratory, it says 90% complete, revamp of the doctors and nurses quarters at Helen Joseph Hospital, also it says 90% complete, assisted families with indigent burials, food, security, rebuilding of shacks and homes burnt down, crime, access to government services. Through various projects in the ward, many unemployed youths were employed on a short-term basis. Also speaks about local SMMEs were assisted on these projects, some on currently working on projects. Healthcare, local clinic with the assistance of the clinic community and Department of Health, and the revamp of the Westdene Recreation Center and early childhood development. And then just some of the promises from the Democratic Alliance candidate here: rebuilding the urban environment, encouraging community participation to ensure service delivery and integrated development program, implementation to ensure quality of life. I want to make our communities the best possible place to grow up and grow old in. Under crime reduction, prevent the development of antisocial behavior by planning for safe and well-lit public spaces, improve SAPS and Metro Police plus community relationships by ensuring an effective CPF, as well as establishing street block centers, communities that must take responsibility and control over their neighborhoods. Under unemployment, the promise there is local authorities have a role to play in boosting the local economy and stimulating the creation of local jobs, from encouraging startup businesses to using their purchasing power to help create jobs. Active local authorities can prove that there are local solutions to global problems. I want to encourage the creation of local opportunities through EPWP programs and explore how libraries can be used as a local resource center for people who are unemployed and looking for information about jobs. Then there's two more, which I'll go through: quality healthcare for all to maximize the optimal functionality of the clinic community and communities and hospital boards, where full community participation needs to be encouraged. Our residents must have a say. And under local government that works, local government can be a vehicle for change and our communities, our quality of life, and our democracy. For DA councillors, good local government means good quality housing, clean streets, safe parks, playgrounds, playing pitches, thriving businesses, and a healthy environment. I want to put local people at the heart of our local government. I want to empower people to contribute to the social, economic, and clinic life of the community so that they shape so that they shape the place where we live. So I'm just going to leave it there because I don't want to, waste too much time and allow the other candidates who were actually present to be able to go through their content. But I just wanted to give a sense to, if anyone had an additional interest in what the Democratic Alliance had to say, so that, the residents could have a bit of information on that. And I'm sure if anyone wants to interact more specifically with Genevieve, they can do that to get more clarity, because unfortunately she wasn't unable to make it to this event. All right, Candice, I'm going to hand back to you.
Thanks so much for that, Diane. we're moving along. Next up on our list is the good candidate, Matthew Cook. Matthew, are you there?
I am here. Thanks so much for having me, Candace. Thanks, Diane, for setting this up. And I just want to thank all the residents who've made the effort. Sorry, I'm having a bit of a problem here.
There we go.
I hope you'll hear me. There we are. And just thanks to all the residents who are engaging. You know, I think the first thing that we need to get right is that we need to become active citizens. And the last 5 years has really been a letdown in Ward 69. It's the reason why I'm active in politics today. The lack of care from a councillor who is absent, just like she's absent from this meeting. I don't know about the rest of the candidates here, but I think we're all contesting the same election. We all have priorities for tomorrow. We all have commitments to make to special voters, but our residents come first and we must be available to them. And I think that this is the first problem that's wrong in Ward 69. And I'm not going to talk about lots of big ideas or big problems or big things that good can do. I think a lot of people, a lot of residents will be aware of Patricia de Lille, be aware of the Good Party, and be aware of our policies that we are trying to implement. So I'm going to talk specifically about Ward 69 and the need for good in Ward 69, because we actually deserve better. We deserve a councillor who cares in our ward. We deserve a councillor who's going to answer our phone and answer our complaints. If we look at the role of a public servant in government, then it's in the name, a public servant. They are there to serve the public. And our public servants and our councillors are the people who should essentially be carrying that. Now, for the past 5 years as a resident, I haven't seen that from our current councillor. And we get a long list of excuses. This is not the first debate that I've been involved in for this election. And our current councillor hasn't been available for any of those. And all of the candidates who are on this panel will probably say here to that, is our councillor is not available for the residents of Ward 69. The DA and Genevieve Sherman have failed the residents of Ward 69. We are sitting with taps dry, we are sitting with the electricity, we are sitting with cutouts, and nothing gets done. In the last 2 months, all of a sudden we've started hearing about this new name, Andrew Murray. The reality is that the DA has got a PR councillor in this ward who has been inactive for 5 years, and in the last 2 months wants to make a big noise and come there to try and save face for our existing councillor who has failed at our job. It's unacceptable, and the residents have a choice tomorrow when they go to the ballot box to ensure that we do not have another 5 years waiting for our councillor to arrive with a long list of excuses as to why she can't be there, why she can't be available for us. It is time that our public servants are responsible to the people and are active in our community. This is why I'm involved with the Good Party. And this is why I'm running for a councillor candidate of this ward for good. I believe that if a councillor is truly committed to their ward, and I've seen this work in wards, and we don't even have to go far. If we're sitting in Ward 69, we just have to go across into a neighboring ward like Melville and see the general sentiment of a councillor who really does a good job in that area and who is going to be re-elected because they do a good job. So what a lot of residents have said to me, why the boxing gloves? What are you guys doing? The reality is that in council, we have to fight. We have to fight to get things done. And it's not up for the residents to go and log every complaint and then for the councillor to escalate. The councillor needs to fight. And I'm saying today to the residents of Ward 69, lend me your vote for the next 5 years and let me fight for you and let me show you what a truly committed councillor will do. I will fight for you. I will fight to have the repairs at Hurst Hill that affect our water and electricity. Instead of just putting a plaster on it, we need to fix it good and proper. We need somebody who's going to be fighting for that in council, not somebody who's probably giving the same excuses to council that they're giving to us as to why they're not available. So we have to start addressing this. And it really is, when you start looking at water and electricity, this goes into a big issue and a big thing that Good wants to target in the government especially, is that water and electricity has become unaffordable to most residents. And the reason for this is that the local government profiteers off water and electricity. If they are buying, in a hypothetical situation, water and electricity from Eskom and then putting it into Johannesburg Power or Joburg Power, City Power, they are marking that electricity up. If they're buying it for R1, they're selling it for R1.70 back to us residents. And this is part of the reason why all of us are sitting with high bills. We have to start cutting those profits, and it is something that local government can do. So we need to look at that, but it takes strong political will, and it takes a councillor who's going to fight for you. So tomorrow when people go to the ballots, Pick a councillor who's going to fight for that. Pick a councillor who's going to fight to be a public servant in your area. After all, a public servant is accountable to the residents. The residents are the boss, right? And so if you were working in a corporate environment or in any other job, if the boss was to call and you don't answer your phone for a day or for a week, or you don't get back to them, you would be fired. Unfortunately, in the political system, we're stuck with a dud councillor for the last 5 years who just doesn't answer calls and isn't accountable to us, the boss. The big issue that we have, especially within our community, is that all of our services have become reactive. Service delivery in Johannesburg and in Ward 69 has become a reactive thing, right? And let me explain that. What that means is the police are not doing patrolling. The police are only coming when somebody's been shot dead. The police are only coming when a house is being broken into. Joburg Water is only being called when the drains are overflowing. Now, many of you residents are homeowners yourself or rent properties yourself. You know when the rains are coming. When the rains are coming, you need to get up on your roof, you need to clean your gutters, and you need to make sure that your house doesn't flood. Why are we waiting until our stormwater drains and our areas are flooding or the infrastructure is broken in order to fix it? And this is what I'm saying, is that a committed councillor is going to be active in their community. They are not going to be reactive and wait for problems, just sitting on their hands at home and waiting for a problem to occur. An active councillor is going to go out there and make sure that the stormwater drains are cleaned effectively. They're going to go out there and make sure that the electricity boxes are sealed and are locked and are closed. They're not going to just let them stand open and wait for somebody else to report it. So we have to start shifting from a reactive government and a reactive service delivery into an active service delivery. And this is really going to be the key for change within Ward 69. If we can just get active service delivery rather than reactive, we're already one step ahead of the game where we are at the moment. Good has also said that we want to prioritize the transport system. As we know, a lot of people unemployed in our area, a lot of pensioners struggling. The financial issues that have been raised out of the COVID crisis has left everybody strapped. We need to prioritize our transport systems within the area, and we need to make sure that we offer free off-peak transport to everybody. This will allow pensioners to get to clinics, it will allow the unemployed to get to job offers. And while that's a bigger issue within it, if we start to look at how that will start to affect our local community, and if we start to fight for that with the high amounts of unemployment within our ward, we need to start addressing that. The final thing that I just want to mention in this section, because I think I'm about to run out of time, is that the ward allocation, the budget has a ward. You as ratepayers are paying rates and taxes within this ward. There is a ward allocation which is allocated to this ward. That is your budget, that is your money. Why are we not having an active involvement from citizens in order to say, this is your money, it's your say where that money will go? Thanks very much for listening, everybody. Please engage in the questions and answers.
Thanks so much, Matthew. Very passionate. Moving on to the last person on our list, and that's Lestor Jacobs from the Patriotic Alliance. Lestor, are you there?
Thank you. Yes, I'm here.
Perfect.
Can everyone hear me? I want to say thank you for the opportunity. Thank you to the residents for tuning in. Firstly, I'd like to say, you know, Matthew, it's not 5 years that we've experienced this problem. It's 25 years under the DA government and 10 years under the Genevieve reign. So I'd like to start by introducing myself. I'm Lestor Jacobs. I'm currently living in Westdene, a resident of Ward 69. So I've started engaging into politics because of the lack of service we've been receiving from our current councillor and the lack of interest that she's showing to our communities in the ward. So basically, we do need an active councillor. We do need someone that is actively involved on the ground with the residents and someone that knows the community. And then also from my side, I would like to just add that, you know, the Patriotic Alliance stands for truth and transparency. So we need a government that comes with truth and transparency. no high out of this world promises, but it comes with action and it gets things done every time we hit the ground. So from myself, I would like to encourage everyone, if you go out there tomorrow, make the right choice. Let's get rid of this lazy, lazy and unproductive counselors that's just there to manipulate us and to deceive us. So let's go out there, make the right choices, get the right people out there. Why am I the perfect candidate? Because I can't do anything within our ward, but we can as a community. So basically, we have to do this together. We have to work this together. I am here to represent you in council. But on the ground, we need to then work together and win this communities back, because as you know, especially in Westdene as well, there is a influx of crime, robberies, house robberies, car hijacking. So it's only us that work the ground that can bring that change. But if we have a leader that is inactive and that doesn't care about the community, how are we going to bring about that change? So basically, we need to stand up as a community and we need to be the change that we want to see. So from the Patriotic Alliance side and from my side, I can say that the community, that we can do it if we unite as one. And also, we need to fight this battle together. You understand? And as to, like I said, why I joined politics is because of the inactive councillors and parties and promises that was made that was never fulfilled. Right now, our youth, they are dying due to drugs and gangsterism. So the only way we can fight these crimes is by creating opportunities and going into our development centers, skills development centers. We have to then now open these facilities for our people and fight and work with them, you understand? Because everyone in the community, they are there for a purpose. Every person within our ward, they are there for a purpose, and it's time for us to bring out and bring forth that purpose to our residents. So I won't be talking too long and making empty promises, but go out to the residents of Westdene, to the residents of Ward 69. Let's go out and let's vote for change. Let us make the difference happen. You understand? So basically, I would like to thank everyone, man, for giving us the opportunity and coming into listening to us, because you know that we need to get rid of this disease that we've been faced with for the past 25 years and the past 27 years. So let's go out, make the right thing happen. And basically, from my side, we need to come out and do this as a community. I will represent you in council like I'm supposed to. I will represent you and stand for you and fight for you and ensure that budgets that is allocated to our ward and our community does actually work in our communities. As we've been seeing in the past few years, that there's a selective of people that gets jobs allocated to them, projects that's being allocated to them. We have to come out and have active people on the ground that is fighting for this change. And that is us. Yeah, we've been active way before the election campaigning starting. We've been working the ground, assisting around Ward 69, myself in particular. So that is why I know that the perfect candidate for this upcoming elections and for the next 5 years will be myself under the Patriotic Alliance. So you should go out, borrow us your votes so we can prove to you what we can do. We're not going to come here with promises and telling you we're going to give you heaven on earth. No, we're coming here and saying to you, let us do this together. Let us work this as a community and let's bring about the change that is needed within our community. And then I also want to just touch base on what's currently happening. What's breaking my heart is the situation in Westdene. I've been working around it, assisted a few families that was living there. brewing ground for crime within the community of Westdene. And we have managed to take 2 families out of there, a lady with the children. And, you know, it's heartbreaking to see what is transpiring there on a daily basis and how it's contributing to the crime factor within our community. Therefore, we need someone that is actively going to bring a change by creating opportunities, job opportunities, business opportunities, skill development opportunities within our community and bring the necessary change. Remember, residents, when you go out tomorrow, I can't, but we can do this. So let's do the right thing and let's ensure change happens. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lestor. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the first session of our webinar, where we had the presentations from the different groupings. If you've just joined us, we had a presentation from the Action SA, we had a presentation from ACDP, the ANC, Patriotic Alliance, and Good. And we are now opening up the floor to the questions. There are lots of questions, lots of inquisitive residents wanting to find out how you guys are going to be tackling their issues. I'm going to hand over to Diane to manage to moderate the question and answer session, and we'll take it from there. Thank you so much. Diane, are you there?
Thanks, Candace. I'm here. And thanks to everyone who sent through such good questions. Some of them are just comments, some are questions. And I think what I'm going to do is, since we went in alphabetical order, I'm going to just do the answers, because I think it'll be important to allow all the candidates to answer the questions. And we'll just go in alphabetical order, starting with the ACDP, then Action SA, followed by ANC. We won't have a response from the Democratic Alliance because they're not present. Then we'll go to Good, and then we'll go to Patriotic Alliance. So if we can just have that order. You know, just for the residents who are with us, we are trying to keep this at around 2 hours. We started at 2 o'clock, so we're hoping that by 4 o'clock we can conclude. So if there are some questions that are similar, what I'll do is I will just combine them, and then I'll just answer. I will just say that it's already answered. If there's anyone who wants to actually ask their question themselves, please raise your hand, and Candace or I will then give you speaking rights, okay? So just the first question then coming from Vihan Kutsen, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Please name 2 key areas or problems that you've identified in Westdene, and I'm actually gonna say Westdene and Westbury because that's, you know, where most of the residents live, and how you're planning on solving this. And if we can start with Ron and move through the speakers from there. After this question is answered, I'll then ask the next one.
Thank you so much for the questions. I think 2 areas that we need to be focusing upon. Local government is, the one thing is going to be housing. I think that is a critical issue for me, and housing in 2 aspects. The first is for the informal settlement, and the second one is going to be on the billing issues that residents are fighting. Now, as far as the housing issue and the informal settlement is concerned, I think there's been no political will over these last few years to redevelop that Joe Slovo informal settlement. It can be done if people are going to be getting to grips with those that are shack farming there, the people that have hijacked that area and turned it into some kind of economic enterprise at the expense of those indigent people that are living there. So for one, I think there has to be a focus on redevelopment of Joe Slovo. And then secondly, as far as housing is concerned, is in terms of the rates and taxes, and I think Matthew referred to it in terms of the charges that are levied on residents. I think it is most unfair for the city to be focusing on turning the city into a world-class city, but in terms of its balance sheet. It wants to have as much as possible. It wants to have the latest vehicles. It wants to be looking smart from a material point of view, but it is strangling our hard-pressed citizens in the process. Now, we need to change that around, and we need to find a way of equitably dealing with the billing issues and how it is that people are being charged. Then the other issue that is of great concern to me is going to be in terms of sports and sporting development, because I see sports as a means of getting young people, changing their mindsets and getting them into a more healthy environment. Yes, we all know about unemployment, and everybody has plans in place to help with that unemployment. But when you look at sports and sporting activities, if you look at the UJ grounds, there's a fantastic asset that the community has, but it's practically a white elephant. It's standing there doing absolutely nothing, where it can be used in so many sporting codes. And I think for me, that is going to be one of the challenges that our incoming councillor would have to be focusing on, is how to get our young people into different sporting codes. And we're not only talking rugby and soccer and cricket, yes, but there's things like kite building, there's things like skipping, there's things like a skateboard park, all of those kinds of stuff. We need to change our mindset of our young people so that they can start having a more healthy self-image of themselves. Thanks for the question.
Okay, great. Thanks for that response, Ron. Paul, we move on to you. Paul, are you with us? I think you're still muted. Paul?
Okay, there we are. Sorry,
yes,
sorry.
Now you're unmuted.
Thank you, Abigail. On the key problems in that, not going beyond the social ills and problems, and I think the most important thing right now is for us to address the electricity and water problem. Action SA wants to incorporate the city-owned entities like City Power, Joburg Water, Pick It Up City Parks into or under the control of the council. At the moment, the SLAs is terrible. People log faults and wait hours and hours for a response or some sort of assistance. So if we can get City Power to report directly to the city manager, we'll have more manageable SLAs and sort this problem out. We can focus on it where we don't have to go through a board. Same goes for Joburg Water. We've got a problem with the reservoir that's not servicing the residents, breaking down every now and then, running empty. When this wasn't an issue in the past, the excuses we get given is that, oh, there was a power failure and the reservoir never filled up. So for those of us that remember, the load shedding started around about 2007. And even though there was load shedding, there wasn't a problem with water, and it's a critical infrastructure thing. Why are there not generators or backup generators to provide the services? It leads on one to believe that maybe there's some other problems, but this is the things that we need to literally go in there and look at it. So sorting out that issues, which is our basic services, water and electricity, number one. And then on a broader spectrum, the unemployment and crime and all those things, it's symptoms of a bigger problem. If you look at Westbury, the youngsters, with COVID, children have a lot more time on their hands. Schools are running on a cycle where children are in one day, out the next day, so they've got a lot of time to do things. And like Ron suggested, I think we actively need to look for a program that keeps our kids busy. When I grew up in the 80s, every school holidays, there was community activities at the recreation center, and that's how I stayed busy in sports and things and that. And if I look at people that grew up with me, that didn't take part in this, like the saying goes, the devil finds work for idle hands. So yeah, we need to find programs across the board and use all the facilities and features of our community to give our children and everybody a chance to keep themselves, because it's not the only solution, but also something we should look at. Right now, our recreational facilities is in a mess. All is hardly working, grounds are not maintained, recreation centers are all bound. So that's things I think we need to focus on.
Great, thank you so much for that input, Paul. We now move to Aluwani from the ANC. Aluwani, do you still have the question, or do you want me to re-ask it?
In fact, I've been going through even the set of questions in the group here on the Q&A.
So, yeah, no, so the one we're answering is just the one, please name 2 key areas or problems that you have identified in Westdene, and I just added Westdene and Westbury, and how are you planning on solving them?
Okay, so in Westbury particularly, I think it is the issue of drugs, and we know that some even go into drugs because of issues such as depression, they're unemployed, they're not skilled, and as a former student leader, who has assisted many young students to enroll for a tertiary qualification so that they can better their lives, I'm better positioned to actually even go station there, be stationed there to say, I'm going to be assisting you guys make applications to tertiary institutions. And as I've said prior, there are many offerings depending on the type of results that you got in matric. So just because you have a lower mark in matric does not mean that you can't enroll for a higher certificate and be absorbed elsewhere. And also, so to deal with the issue of drugs will also be to have a rehab center that also results in skills development. Let's not just position them in a rehab so that they are now rehabilitated and go back into society, but as soon as they're rehabilitated, let us make sure that we empower them with the necessary skills so that they're able to participate in the economy, so that we also avoid an issue of them going back to going back to their former lives of being indulged by drugs, you know. And we always say an active mind has less time for pessimism. And we also want environments within the community, just as Paul has said, where young children will flourish. We need our parks and recreation centers to be rehabilitated so that also these young children and these teenagers also have an environment that is conducive for growth and not just conducive for crime and drug doing and all of that. There's also an issue of lights, street lights, particularly I know in Westdene going to Sophia Town, and I think that is a place within our ward that reports a high number of robberies and hijackings, and sometimes these are informed by street lights not working. And now if the ward councillor can't even fix a simple thing such as street light, then it means we have an inherent, a big inherent problem in the community.
Great, thank you, Aluwani. We now move to Matthew from Good to respond to that question.
So the 2 biggest issues that face our ward are water and electricity security and the drug problem within our ward. So if we look at those 2 issues, there's really, I mean, we can't ignore the water and electricity issue, whether it be shocking taps, whether it be outages, whether it be breakdowns. The reality is that what's happening there is that we continually patch problems, is that even Hurst Hill, which has gone through a number of different repairs, has been repaired incorrectly. And so this has got to be priority number 1, is that we cannot have our residents sitting with dry taps and no water and electricity. So I'm not talking about even necessarily the billing issue of it yet. The billing issue of it is something secondary to me. What we've got to have is we've got to have a secure supply of basic services of water and electricity. We need taps that aren't going to shock us and kill us in our own homes, right? We really need to start solving these problems. And as I said earlier, the issue is that we're currently dealing with all these things reactively. So we're only dealing with the shocking taps where somebody's complained that the shock's tapping, not the other 10 people that have felt it and gone, oh, well, I'm not going to do anything because nothing's happening. So we have to start making sure that maintenance and repairs are fixed properly and not patched. That's the first thing that we need to look at, is water and electricity and the security of that. The second one on drugs, Good is one of the only parties that has openly said that we want to look at the decriminalization of drugs, and that we start treating this as a health issue and not as a criminal thing. Is we are sending our children, right? And I say this especially to the residents of Westbury, we are hunting down our children in fights, in wars, in gun shootouts, because we're treating this as a criminal issue and not as a health issue. If we start treating this as a health issue, and we've done a lot of research into this as Good, is that if you start to look at like what Portugal has done with the decriminalization and upping the health issue and the treatment side of drugs, and then start looking at, once you've done that rehabilitation, how do we keep those people off of the streets? And a couple of the colleagues have already mentioned it. You know, for me, my saving grace was I got involved in theatre. I think a lot of people always push towards sport and say, let's push sport, let's push sport. But, you know, it could be music, it could be dancing, it could be theatre, it could be absolutely all of those things. And we need to get our children, we need to get them off the street, and we need to make sure that they stay off the street. So it's about creating activities, it's about creating an alternative for that, and then also not criminalizing it, treating it as a health issue and making sure that people can get treatment rather than being hunted down and shot by the police.
Right, thank you, Matthew. And then the last response from Lestor.
Very much. Thank you very much. So the two key points that I've identified also, I see everyone is touching on the drugs, but not everyone is touching into detail what is the cause of that drugs. So basically, it is a major problem within our area, only because if you look at it, our facilities, our sporting facilities, especially in Westbury, sporting facilities, development centers, everything is down. It's out. It's not operating because it's been messed up by the previous councillor, the ruling party, as well as under the leadership of Aman Mashaba and the ACDP mayoral candidate who is actively involved in our community. So basically, we do need someone that can come back and fight for this facilities to be reopened. We need someone that can come and fight on behalf of the youth to create opportunities, because our youth, they have nothing to do basically. So they sit there, they smoke drugs all day. They don't have money for drugs. They then go out and attend to doing crime by robbing, breaking in houses, hijacking cars. So it's not so much the street lights, as the ANC candidate said, it's not so much the street lights, but the guys is going out looking to feed their addiction to drugs. That's why they're entering into crime. But if we can have proper programs in place for our youth, for our young men out there that's engaging into this drugs and crime, we then now will have a much lesser crime rate in our communities, and we will then definitely see that a lot of young men become something in life if we have our skills development and our opportunity centers open for this young men. So basically also what I'm looking into is, like we said, the water and lights is a big issue within our community, and we need the entity to then also look into hiring more permanent workers on the floor than having those projects subcontracted to them. That's why you log a call, you wait 3 days, because then they'll tell you there's no technician available, there's no this, that, or the other available. But when we have these people constantly at the entities offices waiting for us to log calls, or I love what Matthew said, when we have this thing serviced on a monthly basis, run through, we have these guys coming out every month and checking our sewage systems. They come in to check our electric boxes. We will have less of these issues being escalated because now we have maintenance on it. So basically, that is our two main issues that we're looking into our ward, and that is what we have to fight. As like I said, as a community, we need to ensure that it happens. So the sports and recreational centers, the skills development centers, economic empowerment centers needs to be then open, so we can have a drop in the crime and drug, or shall I say drug-related crimes. We can have a decrease therein. So that is basically what we do need currently within Ward 69 in Westbury, especially Westbury and the Westdene area. We we should also look into it as there's like opportunities. If we create opportunities, it will then bring growth to our economy, you understand? And we have to take back the local economy from these foreigners that is coming into our wards and hijacking our buildings as well. So when you vote for the PA, also just know that all illegal foreigners and undocumented foreigners, they are going home, definitely. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that response, Lestor. So we see that there are also some of the community members who've raised their hands. Crescenda Thomas, I'm just going to allow you to ask your question. Sorry, let me unmute you. Did I unmute the wrong person? Okay. Crescenda, you are able to speak, and so if you are able to unmute yourself, please ask your question to the candidates, and we'll go in the same order, starting with Ron. Okay, it looks like we're having a bit of a technical difficulty, so I'll just...
Yes, my apologies.
Oh.
I just wanted to ask the ANC candidate, I hear that she's saying that she's a product of, or rather she's been assisted by the government, you know, with scholarship and all that. So I want to know what is going to happen to our youth, our youngsters in Ward 69, that where if they go and they apply for these bursaries or whatever funds is available, they don't get assisted. So how is she going to assist our children within Ward 69? Thank you.
All right, so Aluwani, I'll give you a chance to respond to that because that was a direct question to you. And then I also see that Ron has his hand up, so I think that's a response to something that was said earlier. So let's go Aluwani first, and then after that to Ron.
Thank you very much for your question, ma'am. So what I've also noticed in my years as a student activist is that when you say students must apply on their own, they fill in the information wrongly, or they don't fully specify on the application forms. So that is why I would be fully available also with my team of student leaders who are currently at the university as well, to say we are dedicating perhaps a week to say we are assisting them with applying for bursaries. And there's also a question of the particular bursaries where it needs a particular mark. So we incorporate all the available bursaries that even take those that don't qualify highly to apply. So there are different types of applications or bursaries, and now I would best know which one is suited based on the matric results to say, okay, you don't qualify for this bursary, however, you qualify for this one. There's also what we call a missing middle fund by the University of Johannesburg, which says you are too poor for NSFAS, but too rich for NSFAS, but too poor to pay for your own fees. So in that instance, it would be an issue of read what the application form says, okay, and then you see that you don't, it says perhaps they need 70% qualifying criteria and you don't qualify for that. Then we go to another one, an alternative one to say, okay, this one you fully qualify for. I think the communication also with bursary offices is that they don't make it clear with their criteria and qualification, but there are different types of bursaries in that regard, and we would fully avail ourselves as we have over the years to assist in that regard.
Okay, great. Thanks for that response, Aluwani. And then I'm going to go to Ron, because you had your hand up. Ron, were you planning to respond to something?
Yes, indeed. I needed to just say that as the ACDP, we've been very careful not to run our race and not to embark on this campaign on the back of these, the wrong that other parties have done. Now, having said that, I find it very disingenuous and underhanded for Lestor to say that the MPL is responsible in the destruction of the sporting facilities at Maboneng and the Union Stadium. There is no basis in fact for this wild accusation. I would like Lestor to provide the proof, and I would challenge him today to go to the police station and open up a case against the MPL if he has any proof at all that the bishop has accepted 1 cent out of the 2 failed projects in Westbury. Now, if you're saying that he was part of the process and he was part of the meetings, I am telling to you, and I'm telling the residents of Ward 69 and Ward 82, if any are listening, that that is a bald-faced lie. It is one of those emotional ranks that these immature upstarts are hauling out of scraping the bottom of the barrel to try and find relevance for themselves. It is a lie, and I will challenge you today, Lestor. Put the evidence on the table. Otherwise, you have to apologize unreservedly to the bishop for dragging him into this muck.
Okay, so I don't want to have a lot of a back and forth over this issue. I think perhaps Ron and Lestor need to offline, because I want to make sure that we are able to get as many of the residents' questions answered as possible without taking up their full afternoon. I've seen a number of questions that are asking about how the different candidates are going to deal with crime, and they're asked in a different way. Some are asking about, how are you going to deal with the issues in Westbury that are spilling over into Westdene. Some are just generally asking about how are you going to attend to the issue of crime. And there was also one that asked about the work between the JMPD and the SAPS. So if we could go through the panelists from the top to maybe just give us a sense in a few short statements, how you think that the various crime issues can effectively be tackled to make this ward a safer ward to live in.
Shall I start?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay.
We're going in the same order as before. All
right. For me, safety and security as provincial and national competencies. But we do have a role to play as local councillors in this regard. And I would imagine with the ACDP, we certainly would need to leverage every one of the entities within that safety and security cluster so that we can get to the bottom of it. We've been talking about drugs and all of that issue being one of health and all of the other things. But for me, it's an economic thing, because the drug dealers are the people who are employers of choice nowadays, because in the mainstream economy, these guys that are shooting each other for corners and all of those stuff, they have no other means of getting an income. So we need to go together with the business people and say, how is it that we're going to create job opportunities for our people? How is it that we create businesses within our communities? But most importantly, how is it that we leverage every entity with a safety and security cluster to be able to come out and help our communities? Now, it can be in terms of intelligence, finding out who is this person at the very top that is feeding our communities with all of these drugs. We need to understand what is happening with the cases of people that go and report, or they don't report because there's threats on their lives, or if they do go and report, before they get out of the police station, the drug dealer knows exactly who has come to say what. And I think that's a major challenge that we need to tackle head on. So for me, as far as that is concerned, it's a complex issue. But if the ward councillor, and this is what we would like to do, is to set up a working committee that would be able to interact with these security clusters as we go along. And then as we look at the legal aspects, we find economic ways and means of relieving our youth from the scourge. Thanks.
Thanks, Ron. We now hand you to Paul to respond on the crime question.
Thank you, Abigail. So everybody in South Africa has had a bad experience with, let's say, badly trained SAPS members. And I'm not making excuses, but they are dismally, it's a big problem. The resources, training wise and everything else is in a mess. It's a shambles. If you, like Ron said, the residents in our ward, not everybody has the greatest confidence in them. So what Action SA has committed to doing is to hire more metro police officers, because SAPS is a national function. The city doesn't have control over the hiring, training, and availability of SAPS members. However, this is not the case with metro. So our President Oman Mashaba has said that he would like to increase that number so that they can assist police in the crime fighting forefront. His last year he did, I think, appoint 1,500 more metro officers. I'm not sure the number, but when you do actively see police around in that very vicinity, it reduces the likelihood of a crime being committed. However, crime is a symptom of a bigger problem, and this problem needs to be addressed. And this is where we have to lobby national government. Action SA was always also embarked on programs where they consult specialists in the specific fields, and it's one of the challenges that we believe should be tackled by everybody. Just listening to the SAPS commissioner, national commissioner, our minister of police, and everybody, it's not motivational. You don't feel inspired that crime will ever be under control, and you wonder if they are actually aware of what solutions needs to be taken. So we need to understand it, what's the root cause and all of that, and get the input from the proper professionals in that, and then concentrate on the areas or your parts of our community where this is happening a lot. An example, that's a nail was thrown in the side of Westdene residencies. I think it's 10A, 12A, 2nd Avenue. Derelict and abandoned buildings in our community. We've got one in Coronationville. We've got a whole shopping center that's busy falling apart in Westbury. Sorry, not Westbury, Nuclear. And these are hotspots that we need to address. But I think if we can get a lot more metros on the ground, we can actively tackle the crime problem and possibly find a solution where it comes under control. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that response. Paul, we now move to Aluwani.
Thank you so much. So I remember the former executive mayor, Jeff Makubo, had initiated a program whereby every ward has 10 JMPD personnel who are deployed throughout the day to combat the issue of crime, amongst other things. And I think our greatest issue is also the bribes that police personnel at these police stations get. I think as much as local government or the SAPS is not a function of local government, but we need to build intergovernmental relations to say, but this police station is in this particular ward or area, and it is not fully servicing our people. For instance, I've heard many cases of police being bribed, and if we had this intergovernmental relationship with provincial SAPS and the national SAPS, it would be easier for us to say we are calling for harsher sentences for police personnel who are not patriotic or who are taking bribes. Again, because no man is an island on his own, I think having community forums, the CPFs, and these security personnel within the ward working together, we would truly envision a Ward 69 that is without crime. Because look, truth of the matter is that there may be even those amongst us who know who these criminals are. And we also know that these criminals are not necessarily people who are flying in from Cape Town or who are coming in from the Val, but it is people around our area. So when we have concerted efforts towards the combating of crime, but not only the combating of crimes, but substituting that with skills development, with parks, to keep them busy so that they're away from criminal activities. But fundamentally, the JMPD deployed in our ward, in fact, if we can just advocate for the deployment of more personnel, I think that is also a prerogative of the ward councillor who says, no, in my ward we have a higher crime, can you please deploy more JMPD personnel? I think that is something that is able to be done, and now we have the JMPD working with the CPF in these community forums as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Aluwani. We move to you, Matthew.
Fantastic. So I mean, I touched on the crime issue before, so I'm going to try and keep it short. The reality is that we're chasing crime with the wrong pattern, is that we're still sitting in a reactive pattern. If we really, really want to target crime in our area, we have to make sure that we're targeting crime and fighting crime before it happens. Okay. Now, the only way to fight crime means we have to fight a number of other things. We have to fight unemployment, we have to fight hunger, we have to fight drugs, we have to fight desperation. These are the issues in the ward that are leading to crime. And if we can fight those things, we will then be able to change our neighborhood around and fight for the good. So if we look at the model, and Good has quite extensively looked at Colombia as a model. 10, 15 years ago, Colombia cities were much more dangerous than what South African cities are. And what they did is they took an active approach to take law enforcement and social development and create more engagement between law enforcement and social development. The crime in the Colombian cities has gone down by 80%. It's a good plan. It's something that we've followed, and it's all about looking at more active responses rather than being reactive in our service towards crime. So we really need more active residents. If we look at what, even in Ward 82, which is a neighboring ward, which also includes part of Westbury, what my colleague Farid Domingo, who's running for councillor there for Good, has done with the BCP, the Bosman Community Policing Forum. It's about engagement. It's about constantly patrolling our areas. It's about tackling those things of unemployment, hunger, drugs, and then start to see that the crime starts alleviating in our areas.
All right, thanks, Matthew, and thanks for keeping it brief. Lestor, we'll ask you to speak on this crime issue.
Thank you very much. So basically, fighting crime. We know that crime is rife in South Africa as a whole. But when it comes to Ward 69, I believe, like I said earlier, we have to have some, like our CPF forums formed within our community with the community members. We have to have block forums formed as well, so that we can know that what is happening around each block within our community. And they should work hand in hand with the police. But because we do have a corrupt system where also the police is taking bribes from your drug dealers, your criminals, we then have to have someone that can fight for more intensive assistance from higher authorities. But on my side, I believe in Ward 69, if we can draw up more CPF forums, block policing forums, it will work. Because if you look at in Westbury, just around where I live, we also started this thing, and it actually pushed one of the drug corners to close down, and the guys moved away. So it cleared up even shooting that happened there on a weekly, daily basis. Shooting took place on that specific corner. But when we came together as residents from that block, we then managed to move this crime out of that block. So if we can do it within the entire Ward 69, I think we will have a lower crime rate within our ward. And if we can create more opportunities, like I said, I press highly on that, because I know I interact and I deal with the youth on a daily basis. So I do know that if opportunities can come their way, if they can have skills development centers that they can attend to during the day, instead of sitting and smoking drugs the whole day, when they need the next hit, they have to go out and do crime. If we have the opportunity set out for them, then there will be less crime as well. And as well as if we can work together as a community with our CPF forums, our security watch, our night watches, if we can have more vet programs running within our community, we will see less crime taking place within Ward 69 as a whole. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you to all the panelists. And I am conscious of time. So I'm going to also just summarize some questions that I've seen popped up. A number of the residents are asking about how the candidates are going to ensure that they, if they are successful, the successful candidate and they become councillor, how are they going to ensure that they give feedback, regular feedback to the residents? And I think this will be our last question before we close off. We can go from the top with Ron. How are you going to ensure that you are able to give feedback to the residents if you are the successful candidate in this ward?
Thank you so much. The regulation stipulates that the ward councillor should have at least 4 community meetings every year by way of feedback. I think that is hopelessly inadequate. Now, if we had a functioning ward committee, I would imagine that that ward committee would be able to engage with people. Firstly, when people come with complaints or issues or anything like that, they would come to that committee on a daily basis because that committee would be available daily. And secondly, I think the feedback sessions, instead of having them once every quarter, I believe that we should be having feedback sessions at least every month. We're in a very fortunate position nowadays in that we have social media, there's WhatsApp groups, there's all kinds of ways and means of talking to people on an immediate basis, unlike in the past when we used to send postdeva and horses and donkeys and stuff like that around. So we can speak to people very quickly. I think Tom Peters in his book, In Search of Excellence, was saying that well-managed companies, and he's talking companies, he was saying that people talk to each other. And I think this is what has been lacking in previously, is that the councillors are never available. And if they are available, then they will probably just escalate the issues that you have. So we're looking at daily, weekly, monthly, and at least quarterly feedback, so that on a monthly basis, the community will know exactly what is going on. And there's a feedback loop that we will put into place, so that if a person were to report an issue on a Monday, and by Tuesday at close of business, that issue has not been resolved, we will then be able to find out exactly where in the system there's a holdup and the issue has to be resolved. Let me just say this here. One of the ways of communicating with people, I believe, that if the ACDP were to come into Ward 69, and in Ward 82, we need to have responsive teams, so that if people report an outage, we have to have electricians that will be able to go out there in the very short term, within an hour or two, and go and assess the issue, and then be able to give feedback to City Power by way of their own feedback loop. Give them feedback as to what the problem is. So we need to be talking to one another, and I think that the ACDP has mastered the art of doing that.
Great, thank you for that, Ron. We now move to Paul.
Thank you, Abigail. So that question was one of the questions I answered on the chats. I'll repeat that and just add some. What I said was I would like to have a minimum community meeting at least once a month. However, a more practical timeline is to have a quarterly meeting where we can't have our monthly meetings. And then I would like to use or make use of social media platforms like Facebook, WhatsApp, and Telegram. But to add to that, it's your ward committees, keep everybody abreast of what's happening, and make this information available to the community, who their ward committees members are and what specific portfolio they're responsible for. So if there's any changes or information that the community would need to be updated on, they would know who to contact. Right now, I have no clue who our ward committee is, but I think that should be made available to everybody in the ward, even if it means we needed to literally go and do a flyer drop and introduce that into the committee, to the community. Communication is very important. So that is how I think we should communicate, and also make my number available to everybody. If there's anything you need to know, I don't mind answering the phone and speaking to people, because I love interacting with people. So if there's anything people would like to know, they should feel free to give me a call as their ward councillor. I'm available to assist the community whenever needs be. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. Aluwani?
Thank you so much for your question, ma'am. I think fundamentally, we need to have the ward involved in IDP processes. So IDP processes also contribute to how they wish to see the city being governed, and the type of infrastructural developments they would like to see, both in the city and particularly in the ward. And in terms of communication, because we are moving into a digital era, I think the usage of social media would do us greatly. And I do fully understand that there are those who have no access to social media, and we also have an issue of data. I think another thing that should be advocated for is the rollout of Wi-Fi within the community, so that the people of Ward 69 who have mobile devices that are able to have WhatsApp can also be privy of what is going on. And I think, again, it is important for us to have ward committee members who are very strong and can easily communicate. In fact, my plan, if I enter as ward councillor, would be to have a ward committee member from each VD, so that they become the spokespersons of those particular VDs, and it is easier to escalate whatever issues that they have, because now it's going to be senseless to have ward committee members who are from, let's just say, Melville. But what about representation in and across the ward as well? So I'm going to do that. And again, having quarterly surveys to say, okay, this is what has been promised. How far are we? Are the residents happy? And also having monthly meetings to say, okay, this is what the city had communicated, and this is the view that the committee has. How far are we with the progress? I think being accountable, the greatest factor in being accountable is if the community is also greatly involved. Let's have monthly accountability meetings, even if they happen on Saturday mornings, every last Saturday of the month, to say, okay, this is what has happened, or these are the problems that we encountered, and this is how long it took for us to resolve them. How do we do better the next time that we are faced with a similar issue? I think, yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Aluwani. Matthew?
So to answer this question, I first of all have to thank everybody who's dealt with a flyer stuck to their door from me, because a lot of this question is answered in there. And that is full accountability. I've heard a couple of people talking about accountability, and then we start talking about quarterly meetings, and immediately I start cringing. And the reason why I cringe is I come from a background of corporate and business. And if I was to say I'm only going to speak to my boss every quarter, I don't think I would get the job. So I have said on that flyer, which a lot of you have received, that I will publish my daily diary to all residents of the ward. It is something that I think should go without saying. The ward councillor is accountable to the residents in the ward and to the electorate that voted them in. And not only the electorate, but every single resident of the ward. So I will be publishing my diary. I think weekly meetings, something like this, whether it be a Zoom session or a town hall or a physical meeting, you know, the joy of having campaigned in such a short period of time with this election was that we really start to understand our ward in that. What I can't understand is that it takes me 35 minutes to drive pretty much every single street in this ward. Why is our ward councillor not doing that at least twice or 3 times a week? It's a simple thing that could be done. If it was my job to look after this community and I was entrusted to look after this community, I'd be driving around this community every 2 to 3 days possibly every single day, to look for issues and start identifying it. So it's about publishing diary. It's about weekly meetings for me with the community so that they're updated with what's going on in council, and also so that they can have a say in upcoming matters that are happening in council. It's full accountability on the flyer that's been issued. I've already issued my cell phone number and my email address to everybody. I'm available for residents. I'm available for people to get hold of me. So I'm saying accountability from day one.
Thank you, Matthew. And finally, Lestor.
Thank you very much for the question. So basically, this question was already also asked on the I Love Westdene group, and I have answered it. So I'll answer it again. So basically, from my side, I advise that I will then, when taking office next week, we will form ward committees that will then spread down to VD committees, and that will also now go into block committees and area committees, whereby we meet once every week and we have a community meeting every month after council meetings and before council meetings. So that is how I will stay in touch with my community, as well as using social media platforms like WhatsApp groups, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Wherever we find our people, there we need to be, so that we can always stay in touch. So offer set up at every VD, near every VD, for our people to, because everyone is not blessed to have cell phones, laptops, or devices. So there will be an open door policy for our people from Ward 69 when we take office, so that they can have the councillor, and that he can, is a responsibility to the people, can always be will always be an open door policy for our people. So yes, that's from my side. And we will walk the ground every single day, just like Matthew advised. It doesn't even take you a full hour to travel around the entire Ward 69. So we have to be active on the ground with our people. But definitely we will have from next week ward committee that will then now play into a VD committee, every block committee as well. And that is how we will be staying in touch with every single resident in Ward 69. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Lestor, and thank you also to all the participants. I think we are almost at the end of our session now. Thank you to everyone who came and participated in the session. For those of you who posted questions, unfortunately, we weren't able to answer every one of the questions, but I think that the session did allow for us to get quite a lot of information from the different candidates. And I appreciate those who were able to stay on for the full time that we've been here. I'm going to hand back to Candace now. She's going to wrap, and yeah.
Thanks so much, Diane. Thank you so much. Once again, as Diane said to the candidates, I think some really great insights coming from you, and just some things for us to really hold you guys to account if you do become our ward councillors. I think that I love the fact that you are all mentioning the fact that you want to have feedback with us in some way and have these continuous discussions, and it's something that we really can hold you to account and make sure that it does happen. So in wrapping up, we have about 10 minutes left of this webinar. Can I ask you to just give your final remarks, 2 minutes each, just your final remarks? There might have been a question that you want to answer in those 2 minutes, or just one last message that you want to take away, you want the residents to take away with. We'll start from the top with Ron.
Thank you so much for this initiative and the opportunity to address all of you, the residents included. I'm just saying that tomorrow is going to be a very, very critical day for all of us. I'd appeal to all voters to consider the ACDP very, very carefully. You've had 27 years of governance. You've been able to assess whether it's been good or bad or ugly. And we are saying that as the ACDP, in our assessment, it has really been bad and ugly. And we would like to offer the ACDP and our services and our servant leadership to you to make the change that our communities deserve. We are not a community of criminals. We are not a community of drug dealers. We are not a community of deviants. There's such great potential that is held within our wards and within our communities. And if we are really going to be serious about social cohesion, then we need to be getting together behind the ACDP so that we can, as servant leaders, lead the charge in making the change that Johannesburg and Ward 69 so desperately needs. Thanks once again. And to all the panelists, thank you for your insight.
Thanks so much, Ron. Next up, we have Action SA Paul.
Thank you, Abigail. Firstly, I would like to thank all residents that joined us for the town hall meeting. Really appreciate your time and hope that we'd offered some clarity to burning questions you have and help you make up your mind. And then to all my fellow candidates, I wish you guys best of luck for tomorrow. I mean, to the residents again, tomorrow you make a very important choice. We all know the problems we've had, and it's very important that we get the correct choice marked off on that ballot paper. On that note, I'd like to remind everybody that Action SA is a new party. Its leader is not new to running a city. If we just look back at the history of our leader, he done a lot, and he done it without fear or favor, and things got done. Not everybody is happy in the way that it was done, but we all appreciated that there was things getting done slowly but surely. We knew our city was on the right track. If we look at our social media, in the news and everything, this message rings so true to everybody, because the biggest sentiment in the last week or two was Action SA is getting in the right trajectory. And it's been more active on all social media platforms and engagements and everybody. So people are cognizant of what was done before with our leader, and that's one I think that everybody wants. Every party probably offers this with a different bit of a different flavor, but yeah, to make a choice, vote for Action SA, and we know that the result will be good for everybody in the city. Thank you, Abigail.
Thanks, Paul. Aluwani?
Thank you so much. So in closing, I'd like to state that the ANC is turning a new page in local government. In fact, the selection process of candidates which resulted in my candidature is the answer to the people's cries about a lack of service delivery. Unfortunately, this ward has been under the DA for all these years, I think since the advent of the democratic dispensation. So the ANC is not only promising change, but has fielded a young person who's also a graduate in order to bring about new ideas and energy into the governance of the ward, so that we can also attract more young people with various skills and expertise, so that we can build our community and bring life into the ward in the end of the day. I'm confident that the City Council will be filled with competent men and women from the ANC caucus who have gone through an effective selection process. We have seen how corruption is being rooted out in government recently, and now because we have a new administration in the country which has promised that the era of impunity is over, and we're seeing the commitment towards that, and that is why we have availed ourselves. Well, I have availed myself, particularly as a young person, to be a part of that positive change and to play an active role. I ask for support, and I'm saying we are faced with a rather disconcerting task of leading the social emancipation program to its logical conclusion. I would like you to stand with me and to hold my hand as we build this country, not country, but this ward forward, hoping for better change. And I hope that you do give me a chance and allow me to work with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Aluwani. Matthew, over to you.
I just want to say thanks to the panelists and to all of the other candidates who are in attendance. We've run a good, hard race together. Tomorrow, we hand it over to the voters. We've put our cases forward, and we are saying as good. We've got a good plan to fix South Africa under the leadership of Patricia de Lille. We know one of the most successful mayors, probably the only mayor in South Africa to ever be re-elected. We've got a good plan to fix Johannesburg. We've got a good plan to fix Ward 69. It's tangible. It's about accountability. It's about engagement with residents. And what we have to do tomorrow is we have to use our democratic right in order to vote. We have voted in the bad before. Now it's time for us to vote in the good. Please, Ward 69, vote good tomorrow. Lend us your vote. If I fail you, boot me out the next elections, right? Boot me out before the next elections. Once again, thank you to all of the residents who tolerated us while we were campaigning over the last little while. And thanks for your friendliness, whether I was hanging posters, knocking on your doors, or sticking flyers to your doorways. The response that we've received and the engagement that we've received from the residents of Ward 69 as good has been fantastic. And I just say to all the residents, please stay engaged. We need each one of you to remain engaged in order to see the true potential of Ward 69. Thanks for joining us today, and go out tomorrow. Let's get out the bad and let's vote in the good.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you so much, Matthew. Lastly, but not least, Lestor.
Thank you very much to all the panelists. Thank you for the residents for tuning in. Tomorrow, you got the next 5 years at your fingertips. Make the right decision, make the right choices, and therefore vote Patriotic Alliance so we can do it. Remember, I can't, we can. And in closing, I'll just like to bring to the residents' attention that we are sitting currently with an inactive council, and we can't have more inactive councillors coming in. Clearly, you can see who's here for you and with you. Make the right decisions. And I would also like to just take just 30 seconds just to correct Uncle Ron, as I know him. No one said the bishops stole anything or received a cent from the falling of our infrastructures. I did say, as a MPL and a community leader, he could have done much more than what he has done. And clearly, with your councillor candidate not being actively involved in this debate clearly shows that our priorities is not with Ward 69. So, ladies and gentlemen, go out tomorrow, make the right choice. Remember, vote Patriotic Alliance and Lestor Jacobs, because I can't, but as a community, we can. And definitely, the change is in your hands. Thank you to everyone. Muni Baizani, and in English, don't be bizarre.
Sorry, once again on mute. Lestor, thank you so much for those last remarks. I think with that, Paul, I do see your hand up. Was there something that you wanted to add?
Yes, Abigail, you know, I find dishonesty or lack of knowledge and saying it with not really knowing. It's a bit of disrespectful, sometimes not intentional. Just need to clarify 2 points that was mentioned on the closing. Firstly, to the ANC candidate, the ward has changed in the demarcations for some time and but it wasn't always a DA ward. I'm not defending the DA, but I'm bringing to your attention that your councillor, Fadil Musa, was responsible for this ward for a while. So at any given stretch, a large portion of our problems is the ANC is responsible for that. And then to extend to Matthew's point when he made a remark about Patricia de Lille having been the only mayor that was re-elected. To correct him again, we had an ANC mayor that was continually re-elected and nothing improved in the form of Park Style. And everybody in the city knows it. So it's not something to be happy about, but we are reminded of the bad choices we've made in the past. So I think out of respect to our residents, we should just clarify those things. And then hopefully Aluwani will go back to a party and say, if this is correct, yes, it is correct. You should know more about the party and the ward that you're running for. Thanks, guys. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Paul. And on that note, I think we're going to close off. Thank you for your time, residents and councillor-elects, candidates. Good luck tomorrow. We hope that you have a good day, and yeah, enjoy voting, guys. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.